Environmental Protection Agency has proposed a rule to allow sales of gasoline with higher ethanol blends. And supporters say higher blends like E15 could be a win for corn growers.
That's what Nebraska's governor was talking about in South Sioux City, Nebraska tonight. KTIV's Clayton Anderson talked with Governor Jim Pillen at a meeting for shareholders of an ethanol plant in Dakota County. Clayton?
That's right. Governor Pillen was among several lawmakers at the Siouxland Ethanol shareholders meeting. They're hopeful the EPA's rule change regarding sales of E15 will lead companies to blend even more of the corn-based fuel additive into gasoline.
We really want to get our gas tanks to E15 across the country. It's really, really important for energy independence and for our environment.
Siouxland Ethanol in Jackson, Nebraska is an ethanol producer. President and CEO Nick Bowdish says progress has been made with laws regarding ethanol, but there's still progress to be made. One of those bills, LB 562 in the Nebraska unicameral, would provide commercial access to E15 throughout the state of Nebraska.
It's just critical that we have policymakers that understand we don't need taxpayer handouts to fund agriculture. If we are just given the opportunity to market access, our products will stand on their own.
Congressman Adrian Smith of Nebraska has introduced bipartisan legislation in the House that's been picked up in the Senate. It would allow for year-round E15 sales. He said EPA limits on E15 need to be reevaluated.
I think we need to further remove the barriers that exist, the regulatory barriers that exist, that are ultimately based on old information.
Smith added the goal of making E15 more accessible will help the state's economy.
Ultimately, we want agriculture to be an economically viable opportunity. We as consumers need that to happen as well. So, various dynamics, whether it's EPA regulations that have stood in the way of year-round E15.
Right now, the EPA enforces summertime regulations preventing E15 sales because of its concerns it contributes to smog in hot weather.
Clayton Anderson joining us tonight in studio. Clayton, thanks so much.